Hey everyone, welcome to Fit for 5K, first strength video. The first part of this video is going to be spending about 5 minutes just foam rolling. The ones I've got in the video here is going to be your tibialis anterior. That's going to be on the side of your shin as well as your calf muscles. So when we're spending a lot of time running, these are two things that can get pretty cramped up, especially in the beginning of training. So go ahead and hit pause here, spend a little bit of time either using a lacrosse ball, foam roller, massage gun, and we'll get into it. All right, warming up, we're going to do a couple dynamic movements. Right here, we've got the hamstring sweeps. So you can do about 10 of those. And then right after that, we're going to go into, I call these an A replace. So you'll pick one knee up and take about 4 strides before switching place. The goal is to keep your knees at a 90-degree position. Could get about 5 each side, and you can cycle through a couple rounds of this. We just want to get our core temperature up, heart rate going before we get our stretches in. Moving into our dynamic warm-up, we're going to do inverted hamstring stretch. So you can keep your hands out to the side for stability. You're just moving that leg back. Stationary leg, you don't want a lot of knee bend in. Just think about getting your chest parallel to the floor and standing back up. Gonna get about 5 each side here. All right, next thing we've got is we're gonna do a figure 4 stretch. So you're just putting your shin across your opposite thigh and then just sitting down. So as you reach out in front of you, you should feel a stretch kind of in your glutes, hamstring area, trying to get as far as you can. Each time you can start a little bit high and then work your way down. And one side might feel a little bit tighter than the other. That's totally fine. Getting in some good solid reps here. All right, the next thing we're going to move into is going to be some T-spine rotation. So you're placing your hand on your head. Look where your elbow's going. As you exhale, try to see how far up you can get your elbow. You should feel that twist in your lower spine. You don't really want to compensate anything else with anything else. So yeah, just making sure that you're exhaling, bring that elbow up high towards the ceiling. Each time trying to get a little bit further than the first one. Now we're going to move into our glute bridge complex. So driving through your heels, you're going to push through both feet to lift your hips up. Once you get about 5 or 6, we're going to switch over to the single leg glute bridge. So that means one's going to stay up in the air, and then you're going to put the same amount of force driving through your heels, trying to get your hips up. Going to get 5 or 6 each side here. And then remember, before you run, even if you're not working out that day, you should still definitely do these kind of exercises just to warm up the muscles and activate the muscles that you actually want to be using while you're running, and that will help with your stride. So now we're moving into some knee hugs, getting those hip flexors happy. Get about 5 each side here. Make sure when you're exhaling, you're really pulling that knee as far as you can, or as close as you can to your chest. All right, so the last thing we're going to do in our warm-up is going to do some potentiation. So I'm going to drop into a kind of a quarter squat position. I'm going to move my feet as fast as I can and my hands slow. So I want to do 2 different things here. I'm just going to go for about 5 seconds, shake it off, and then I'm going to start over. So the goal is to move your feet as fast as you can without letting your hands try to keep up. And we're ready. So our first block is just going to be 3 exercises, 4 rounds. We're going to do some single leg depth drops. So see, I'm getting on my midfoot, dropping into kind of a squat position. You're going to get 5 reps on each side here before you move on to the next exercise. And just think each time, how quickly can you bring your hands back, dropping into that single leg squat position. This movement is going to change each week as we progress, getting closer to the run, as we build a little bit more stability here and there, especially in that ankle. Next exercise we're going to do is going to be our cat-cow stretch. So I'm bringing my shoulders up as high as I can, and then as I exhale, creating a big U. And I'm going to get 5 of each of those. Take your time here. This one's really good for your spine. All right, once you finish that, we're going to go into our lateral shuffle with stick. So I'm getting about 4 strides before I pause on my outside leg, and I kind of want to just come to a complete freeze for about a second before moving to the next side. And I'm going to get about 2 each side, or 2 stops, and that's going to be all 3 exercises. So definitely take your time through all 3 rounds. You don't really want to feel fatigued as you're doing these exercises, as they are really focused on balance. So our second block, once you're ready, our first exercise is going to be a single leg squat. And there is going to be a modified version. If you don't have equipment, then the next video is going to be the same block, but just what you can do if you don't have any resistance bands or a step up block. So what I'm doing here is make sure that you're using the leg up on the bench or cooler, if you will, to get yourself up. I'm going to switch sides here and you'll be able to tell the leg that's driving through. You don't really want to get too much of a forward momentum, and you don't want to have your foot on the ground pushing you up. So just let the bent knee do as much work as possible. So we want to use our glutes and quads here to stand up and control the speed of the descent. That last one was not a great example. That's okay. So the second exercise we're going to do in this block are going to be called dead bugs. You can either use a foam roller or a physio ball, or just hold your hands up, but ideally you would want to squeeze something between your hand and knees as the opposite arm and leg push straight away from each other. So I think you want to get your fingers as far away as your heel as possible. So your leg definitely wants to straighten all the way till it touches the ground, as well as your arm. You're reaching back over your shoulder, touching that thumb to the ground. In this block, we're actually getting 10 each side. We did 8 each side of the single leg step ups, sorry. So once you get 10 each side here, we'll move on to the third exercise. And again, try to maintain that same pressure between your hand and knee if you're using a foam roller or a med ball or a light dumbbell. So you can move that off to the side. I've got a light resistance band that I just have set to a higher anchor point. I'm going to get into a half kneeling position here. I've got 8 reps each side. And just think you're pulling that elbow down towards your side, keeping your shoulder away from your ears. If you're using a resistance band, just remember, if you control the speed of your descent, so the speed of how my hand's getting further away from myself, that's still a really good strengthening exercise. We don't really want the band to just pull us once we've finished our row. So these are the 3 exercises. You go ahead and pause this video here. Once you're all set, you can fast forward through the next block because that's going to be our modified lifts. So here's your exercises. Go ahead, pause. Here's your no equipment version. So I'm doing the same kind of exercise, but I'm just going to use a chair or a mechanic stand to do these reps. Really watch your heel. You don't want it to come off the ground. These are a little bit harder if you don't have great ankle mobility, hip mobility, but each repetition, see how far you can get or how low you can get each time. And it's the same thing. You're going to do 8 repetitions each side. Really watch those ankles, Katie. Come on. All right. So moving on to the dead bugs. It's going to be the same thing because you can really use any household equipment just to get this exercise done. You just want something that you can put pressure on, opposite hand and knee. And again, you can take about a minute, minute and a half in between exercises. You don't really want to feel super out of breath moving into the next round, just because we do want to get some quality repetitions, especially with the single leg squats. They might feel pretty taxing. So we definitely don't want to treat these circuits like a conditioning kind of thing. These are definitely strength exercises. So here's the modified version of, if you don't have a resistance band at home, you can pretty much just find maybe a gallon of water or something with a handle, a heavy backpack, and you're just going to go into a bent position. And same thing, you're still pulling your elbow up, keeping it close to your side, shoulder away from your ear. You're going to get 8 repetitions each side here. You can kind of get creative, create any sort of resistance, just to use as a row. And moving into a better angle so you can see, keeping my back flat as I'm pulling. If it's too heavy and you see your shoulders start to rise, you know it's bad. So pause here, and we're going to move into our third block. So this is going to be kind of our accessory block. So I've got my resistance band. There's no video for exercise you can do instead. You can pretty much pick up any 2 objects of similar weight. The first exercise we're going to do are going to be 12 repetitions. You've got lateral raises. So you're just keeping your arms straight, pulling them up to the side. Then you're going to go right into some front raises. So same arm position, but now you're just bringing your hands about eye level. If you want more resistance, then you can just put an additional foot or your second foot in the band. And then the last one's going to be upright rows. So remember, lead with your elbows here. Like if you're a little puppet and someone had strings on your elbows, you're lifting through there. And you've got 3 rounds here, 12 of each. Next exercise we're going to go into is a 3-way lunge. So you've got a forward lunge, a lateral lunge, and a reverse lunge. And you're going to get 8 of each side. So you are going to be here for a minute. And then on the lateral lunge, just make sure when you go out to the side, you're lunging into that leg. So see how the stationary leg is just going straight, and the knee that's bending is going to take the weight. So I don't necessarily want to stay leaning inward and just pop my foot out. I'm going to step out into it. Obviously, once you get 8 of each direction, you're going to switch legs. And it's easy to notice some imbalances when you do these two, of one side's really good at lateral lunging, one side not so much. That's totally fine. Just make every rep count here. Since there are a lot of reps, definitely just kind of focus on your technique so you don't start getting sloppy at the end of it. And then also on the lateral lunge, make sure you're keeping that toe pointed right out in front of you. So now we're moving into the third exercise, and we're going to do a little bit of core. So this one's a hollow body hold. So if I'm on my back, I want to start with my feet and hands up in the air. I'm lifting my shoulders off the ground, and then I'm going to straighten my legs, reach my hands back behind my ears. I can bring my heels down a little bit further if I wanted more of a challenge. If I wanted resistance, then I can put a weight in my hands and hold that back behind my head. So some cool down exercises I have here. You're going to take one leg, cross it over the other, and then twist towards that bent knee. So as you use your arm to push your shoulders away from it, you'll get that twist in your back, as well as a little bit of a stretch in your glute. You could either hold each side for about 30 seconds, or you can go back and forth for 5 reps each side. And then we're going to repeat that movement we did in the warm-up, except now I'm going to do a knee hug, and then I'm going to bring my knee across my body for a little bit more of a stretch in my hip. I'm going to get 5 back and forth each leg. And you can kind of make little circular motions depending on where you feel super tight, but just go back and forth from a knee hug to kind of a cross body stretch. And those are my 2 cool down stretches.